Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you everybody. So for those people who are joining us on Twitch, we have got quorum. We have 171 members present. We needed 115 to reach quorum, and that is 1/3 of our voting members. So thank you to everybody who is joining. We understand that this is not a convenient time for some people. It's the middle of the night or very early morning. So we thank everybody for attending. With that, we will switch through to the agenda. Everybody in the chat, I did paste the folder with all of the documentation. You should have access to the minutes from the 2024 annual meeting. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from last year's meeting. I will give everybody, if you have any issues with that, I'll give you 30 seconds to raise any objections. Otherwise, I will move to a vote to accept those as a true and accurate representation of the meeting we held last year. Okay, no objections. Blake, if you could kick off our first poll. So this is the first vote. If you are in favour, okay, thank you everybody. Wow, that was so much quicker. With that, we have finalised the first vote with 72 out of 76% of the voting members approving that, according to the poll. But with proxies, that is a pass for that vote. Blake, can you please confirm the exact number for me?
We are working on that.
Okay, thank you.
It's a bit of a process that we'll still have.
Yeah, still a bit of a process. Thank you. Definitely quicker than counting hands, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We're just finalising the exact numbers and counting it up with proxy votes. It is a pass, but we'll get the exact number. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, with that, we have 169 votes yes, 4 votes abstain, with an approval rate of 97.7, so that vote passes. Thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item, and I'll pass over to Nick, who will give the Executive Director's activity statement for 2024.
All right, thank you, Carrie, and good morning, afternoon, and evening to everybody, wherever you may be. I have the pleasure of sharing with you today an overview of the World Cube Association's activities for the year 2024. Please note that I will predominantly be talking about activities during the 2024 calendar year, but as it turns out, that is hard not to talk about this year's successes and achievements as we near the end of 2025. So 2024 signified the 20th year anniversary for the WCA, and it was a year of continued growth for the organization. In just 2 years, the number of competitions almost tripled, with 2024 total of 2,715 competitions, standing at over 2.5 times the 2022 total of 1,079. This dramatic expansion represents a 151% increase, and WCA competitions were attended by a total of 64,000 unique competitors. 51% of those attended a WCA competition for the first time. And additionally, in the year 2024, we sanctioned competitions in 98 different countries. At the end of 2024, the WCA recognized 45 regional organizations as the local organization for their region responsible for supporting local WCA activities, and this included 9 new organizations added during the year. In 2024, we initiated new policies and programs to support the growth of these organizations through development and governance grants, along with waiving WCA dues for all national championships under the banner of an organized regional regional organization. The WCA will continue to provide all regional organizations a waiver of dues for their national championships in 2026. The WCA continues to rely on the hard work of volunteers who spend their time making the WCA what it is today. At the end of 2024, there were 538 community members who are in a junior or full delegate or committee or team member role, plus an additional 114 trainee delegates. It is especially impressive to see volunteers who are willing to commit to multiple roles to ensure the continued success of the organization. And on behalf of the rest of the leadership team, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all those who volunteer their time in supporting the WCA to achieve its mission. In 2024, we saw some significant changes to the WCA's structure with the establishment of the Integrity Committee and the addition of the Major Championship Team. These two teams have enabled us to drive growth in these strategically important parts of our organization. 2024 also saw a full series of continental championships in all 6 continents, all made possible by partnering with our long-term partner Rubix. And we look forward to continuing and expanding our partnership with Rubix long into the future. As will be shown by the Treasurer's upcoming financial report, we are delighted to share that the WCA continues to be in a strong financial position that ensures the WCA's continued operations are resilient even in times of uncertainty. As such, we have now been able to turn our focus towards funding key projects to propel the WCA forward. Highlights include a complete redesign of the WCA's branding and website, support for regions developing and maintaining strong regional organizations, funding equipment for regions otherwise unable to support the purchase of a new competition gear, investing in training systems for our global delegate body, and a renewed thrust into supporting and improving the spectator experience at the elite levels of speedcubing. We look forward to continuing work with the relevant teams and committees to deliver exciting projects to propel the WCA and speedcubing in the future. The WCA is at a pivotal moment in its trajectory. The explosive growth in the years 2022 and 2023 have massively expanded the scope of operations of the WCA. This has been a double-edged sword. While the growth and increased attention on speedcubing is a boon for the organization, it has also highlighted growing pains. And the WCA is not the same organization that it was only a few short years ago. And with that requires an updated mindset and strategy. We're incredibly excited to present a new purpose statement for our organization for the first time since the WCA was founded. The WCA's new purpose statement is to empower the global speedcubing community and uphold a fun and fair competitive environment for all. To supplement the new purpose statement will be an established set of values for the WCA. These values are community, fairness, fun, excellence, and volunteerism. These values are not anything new and reflect existing principles that our organization strives to uphold. By defining them explicitly within our bylaws, we aim to cement them as core pillars of the WCA and provide a framework for everybody who contributes to the WCA's purpose. To round out the updated purpose and values, the WCA board is presenting an updated strategy to guide the organization through the end of 2028. This strategy is broken down into 5 key areas that we will be focusing on over the next few years: growth, systems, partnerships, events and championships, and volunteers. On behalf of the WCA board, I would like to thank each and every one of you for the dedication that you show to the sport of speedcubing and your willingness to share that with others. The effort each and every one of you put in is what makes the WCA what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I don't know if there's any clarifying questions that people would like to ask of Nick. We don't have time for full questions, but if there is any clarifying questions, I will take a question. Otherwise, if there's no questions there, I will move. Ruben, yes, you have a question?
Yeah, I didn't know how to raise my hand. I just wanted to ask you, when will the new purpose statement will be updated on the WCA website?
Yes. So the process here is that we will vote today to accept that purpose statement into the bylaws. So we thought that that was a very important step to include the purpose statement, which it hasn't been previously. We haven't had the mission statement or the spirit or any of those other guiding documents or statements in our bylaws before. So this is a very important step for the WCA. Once the voting membership has agreed to include that in the bylaws, we will then update it on the website and we will publish the strategy at the same time. And so those values, are they ranked equally? They're not in a ranked order. They're in an order because we have to put them in some order, but there isn't a ranking as such. They are values that we value all of those equally. So thank you, everybody. We will do the votes after we do the financial statement. So I'll move on to Raymond. Thank you, Raymond. And he can talk to the financial statements.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Hello, everyone. My name is Raymond Gaza, and I am the treasurer of the World Cube Association. So I'm going to walk you through the financial report, which was included in the packet. The link to that was shared earlier. This report is not yet directly linked on the WCA website, but it will be once we officially approve it through a vote as well. The financial reports for previous years are already up there on the website. So this report, I'm not going to be sharing my screen, but if you pull it up, I'm going to be kind of walking through it. You can tell where I am in it. It has an introduction section that is written by the WCA Financial Committee, and it kind of tries to explain our finances in verbiage that's more understandable to the average person. And then after that, there's some numbers that actually go into detail on the numbers of the finances. And then there's some more information that's kind of written by the accountants for the accountants, kind of going real granular detail about how we handle certain financial things. So the big picture of our finances in 2024, well, if you look back to 2023 and 2022 before that, we really had some explosive, almost uncontrollable growth in the finances. What we're seeing in 2024 is a stabilization, leveling off into a more manageable pattern of development. So our year-over-year growth in 2024 was in the revenue was about 12.5%, which is we're still growing, but again at a more manageable rate. So that's what we see on one side. And then the other thing that we're seeing is as we start to level off in that growth, we are starting to invest more into assets and big projects. As Nick said in his statement, we're starting to invest into things. And so if you look in the introduction section of the financial report, we'll see that back in 2021, close to 75% of the WCA's assets were in cash. And now we're down to less than 50% of the assets are cash, which means that we're investing more in assets that aren't cash. And I'll talk more later about what those are. But it means that we're still continuing to grow as an organization, investing in valuable things, but not strictly just holding all the cash and not doing anything with it. We're actually doing stuff with that money. So if you go down from the introduction section, the two main sources that we get money into the WCA are from sponsorship agreements and the WCA dues that are collected from pretty much all WCA competitions. I do want to elaborate on something here that wasn't quite gone into as much detail in the report. I kind of realized afterwards that we could have gone into more detail here. We see that the dues income in 2024 was about the same overall amount of money as in 2023, but there is a lot of movement going on under the hood. And a big part of that is what Nick said about how national championships that were organized with the support of a regional organization were exempt from dues. So if those had been charged dues, we would have seen the amount of dues collected by the WCA go up by quite a bit because those national championship competitions are large. They would bring in a lot of dues. But that policy decision, of making those competitions exempt from dues allowed us to collect about the same amount of dues as we did previously, factoring in some growth overall. But reduce the amount of dues we collected in a very targeted way to support those national championship competitions that really showcase the best of our sport, and do that also in a way that helps support regional organizations, encourage the formation of more regional organizations so that more nations can get that benefit as well. So we are moving things around to the dues, even though you see that leveling off, that stabilization, that we are making decisions around that to invest going forward in the future of the organization. Dues are still making up more of the organization's income than sponsorship. That kind of moves back and forth because we get different amounts of sponsorship each year, but it's still consistently we're bringing in more in dues. All the other sources of income that we get are very small. There's little things here and there, like just straight up charitable donations to the WCA. They're all together less than 5% of the organization's revenue. Dues and sponsorship are the big ones. On the financial statement, and we'll get to this a little later, we do recognize certain donated services. This is basically something that just for best accounting practices, we are required to do, and it's basically just looking at certain professional services like bookkeeping and assigning a value to them based on fair market practices. It doesn't make too much of a dent in the overall finances of the WCA, but you will see that in the statements. We do have a little explanation there. So when the WCA spends money, we are spending money on just expenses that are our everyday operations, and we are investing into assets as well. And that's a big trend that we see in 2024. More investment into assets. So assets, cash is the main asset, but we're seeing cash be, as I said, less of the focus of our assets. We're investing into other things. We continue every year investing into the WCA trademark by registering the WCA trademark in more jurisdictions. So we have the rights to the name and the logo and all of that in jurisdictions all over the world. We're continuing to develop software, the new registration system, and updating the website and things like that. That value is kept as an asset. And then there's some other things such as retainer fees and lawyers and things like that, but lots of different assets. And the software is a big one that I'll talk about more in a bit. So, like I said, we are continue developing custom software, and we're building the organization's long-term future, but we're still keeping enough in cash to have that flexibility in case of anything a drastic emergency coming upon us. And so just the way that those assets work is when we're developing new software like a registration system, it becomes an asset up front. It has we define a certain useful life for it. And so over time, it counts as an expense as that useful life winds down. So you'll see that in future years in the WCA's financial statements, that the things that are assets now, as their useful life goes on, it slowly starts to wind down and count as expenses in the future. So that's where our assets are at. In terms of program activities here, we we expend our money on various activities. The one that is the most expensive is our major championship support. And we saw a jump in that in 2024, because in 2023, we had 1 world championship to support. In 2024, we had 6 continental championships, and that was more support going out overall. Other programs that are going on include travel funding, which in 2024 was majorly revamped and expanded to expand the reach and make it possible for the WCA to fund more movement of delegates around the world to continue growing Cuban communities all over. So that multiplied about 6-fold over what it was spent in 2023. We've got the equipment funding program for help communities build equipment capacity. We didn't spend as much on that in 2024 as we did in 2023, just because we only ran 1 cycle of funding throughout the entire year instead of 2. We have regional organization grants that help regional organizations get registered in their country and cover some of their basic operational costs. That 2024 was the first full year that we ran that program. So we kind of got a baseline expectation of what future years are going to look like, what that demand is. And we also had programs such as in Newcomer Month in 2024, where funds were expended to support local competitions that tied into that initiative. As I said, I was going to dive a bit more into the WCA website and software services. This is kind of the most complicated part of the WCA's financials, because Some of the money that goes towards the WCA's website and software is used for external things like competitions and all that. Some of it is also used internally for administrative purposes. So some of the costs are counted towards the program activities, things that support the WCA's mission directly. Some of those costs count towards the internal operational stuff. And also some of the money spent is counted as an asset. Some of it is counted as an expense. So it's kind of split 3 or 4 different ways there. So the trend that we have there is that the software contractor costs were increased in 2024 over 2023. We have more stuff going on there, but the website costs, the costs of basically hosting our WCA website, only increased by a little compared to 2023, even though our usage was quite a bit higher. And that's because part of what those software contractors that are doing is making things more efficient so that we can have more usage on the website without necessarily exploding our website costs. And then the last program that we have is one that doesn't necessarily cause much income or revenue or expense one way or the other. We have the WCA Gear Team, where delegates purchase SpeedStack's gear through the WCA, and then to get discounted bulk rates. WCA purchases it for them, and then they pay the WCA back. So that is intended to involve no net change in the long run. It's basically money just passing through the WCA. The volume of those gear orders went down in 2024 by a lot. We had about twice as much in 2023 as we did in 2024. That's because communities all over the world have kind of reached their capacity. They've got the equipment that they need. There hasn't been any brand new timer release that they need to start switching out. So we've seen communities kind of reach a stable level of equipment, so not as much was ordered through the WCA in 2024. We also have those supporting internal activities that help support internally the WCA's operations, just listing some of those. The accounting fees, because we get professional accountants to help prepare this. We have liability insurance, legal expenses for any legal involvements that we have. There's travel in certain cases of not travel associated with running competitions, but travel for meetings and things like that. We use all sorts of subscription services internally in the WCA. And as I mentioned, some portion of the software development and web hosting costs is counted towards our internal expenses, our supporting expenses, because it helps with those administrative support. So our supporting expenses did increase in 2024 over 2023. That was kind of driven by, there were some more legal expenses. We were pursuing a sponsorship consulting program, and we expanded the software contractor program as well. But if you compare the size of our supporting expenses to the size of our program expenses that I talked about earlier, supporting expenses are now a smaller portion of our overall expenses. They were about 40% in 2023. They're down to about 30% now. And that's the direction we want to be heading. We want more of our expenses to be directly the programs of the WCA, those major championships, those equipment funding and things like that, and less of it to be the internal stuff. So, and just a little thing that's I do want to highlight here is that the WCA Financial Committee has been working to help make sure we get charged less in processing fees for all those WCA dues that get paid to us. And we did see that processing fees actually declined in 2024, even though we brought more money was coming in to us. So that's just a neat little thing that we are trying to squeeze out every little efficiency to make sure all those WCA dues are able to get put towards these programs as much as possible. So that's kind of the explanation of those high-level trends. I'm going to jump down now and talk about some of the actual numbers a little bit lower in the report here. So if you're looking at the statement of financial position at the end of 2024, we had about $370,000 in cash. And then all these other numbers, accounts receivable is invoices that were due to us at the end of 2024. Prepaid expenses was major championship support for major championships in years past 2024. That in-process software number of 159,000 is the value that we assigned to all the software that had been developed through our software contractor program up through the end of 2024. And those other numbers, other intangibles, means the value of the WCA trademark and all of its, the jurisdictions where it's registered, and other assets refers to legal fee retainers. So as you see, we've got about $370,000 in cash, but the total assets of the WCA is close to 800,000. So less than half of the assets are cash. All of those other assets are invested into other things, whether it's the software, the major championships in the future, or things like that. And only thing that we have marked as liabilities at the end of 2024 is a little bit of invoices that we owe to someone else, and that was just happened to be unpaid at the end of 2024. It was paid very soon after, so it just happens that at that December 31st, 2024, we had a small amount of invoices that were not overdue yet, and they were all paid before they were due. So when you take into account all those assets and liabilities together, we're still at just under $800,000 in. That's what we could call the value of the WCA, I suppose, at this point. As we look down on the next page to the statement of activities, we're looking at where money came in. And so you see that first set of lines of equipment sales minus cost of equipment. That's the WCA Gear Team program I talked about, where we purchase equipment for delegates and then they pay us back for it. That number is not quite balanced out because there was maybe one or two cases at the end of 2024 where we had purchased something but not gotten paid back for it, or maybe the other way around. So that's still something that balances out in the long run. The contributions line, that is donations to the WCA, and that's something that actually ticked up quite a bit over 2023, where we got $6,000 in donations from various individual small donors, which is great, but it still is pretty small in comparison to our other sources of income. There's that donated services line of about $9,000. That's the fair market value that we assign to various professional services that if they hadn't been provided by volunteers, we would have had to go out and find a bookkeeper, a lawyer, something like that to handle. You see the big sources of income in 2024. Those two are sponsorship income of $231,000, dues income of $462,000. So that's where the majority of our money is coming from. And then other income is things like we get income, we get interest on money in our bank accounts, we get cash back on debit card purchases, just little things here and there that add up to a little bit of extra income for the WCA. So we had to have about $721,000 of revenue in 2024. Then our expenses break down. The next page is going to break this down further, but about $333,000 in those program activities, the things that directly support the WCA's mission, $141,000 in those management in general. That's those supporting internal administrative activities. So add those up, you've got $475,000 in total expenses. So the WCA's assets went up by about $250,000 over the year. But again, you didn't see the WCA's cash balance in the bank account go up by $250,000 because a lot of those assets went into software and things like that. So net assets of the WCA, as we talked about previously, is a little under $800,000. And so the next page, which is the statement of functional expenses, talks about, it kind of splits those expenses into which ones are program activities, which ones are supporting activities. So it's about $240,000 went towards supporting competition. That was pretty much almost all those major championships in 2024. And that's where the sponsorship money basically comes in. You scroll up, you see we got about $231,000 in sponsorship money, and then that basically is going right back out to support those major championships, those continental championships. Going down the program activities column, it's about $65,000 in expenses on information technology. That's the software development, website maintenance, website hosting, things like that. You see about $12,000 was spent in program travel. That's travel of delegates to help support competitions and things like that. And equipment there is on this line about $41,000. That includes both equipment that was provided as the equipment funding program and equipment that was paid back by delegates. And you see a little bit lower, that $30,000 line. That's what we got paid back. Other expenses, other program expenses are this line, I believe, was newcomer month local competition support there. So that's where you see $333,000 in those program activities. Moving over to the management and general line, we've got about $71,000 in fees for services, and that's those subscriptions. That's the consulting, that's legal fees, things like that, all of those things happening internally. We got about 29,000 assigned to the internal value, the administrative support for website maintenance, web hosting, things like that. And then about 10,000 spent on that travel that wasn't directly part of a program, but was spent for getting WCA volunteers and personnel to meetings and things like that. And then we've got other expenses under the management and general line as well, more things that are supporting internally the operations of the WCA. So that all adds up to that 141,000. So all those bottom line there is numbers that we've seen before. And so the last page that I'm going to talk about here before wrapping things up is just straight up cash. So this is specifically talking about where did cash come in. So you've seen a lot of these numbers before, that we got about $6,000 from donors, 231,000 from sponsors, 32,000 from the equipment getting paid back from delegates who purchased it through the Gear Team program, 466,000 in dues, 11,000 from those minor sources here and there. And so what you see there is in our cash flow, we've got it talks about intangible assets, that's the trademark, things like that. And then in process software, about 140,000, 139,000 in the WCA's cash moved into investing in those software assets. So we put about $150,000 in 2024 into those assets of the WCA. So that means that even though the cash that came in was almost 200,000, the balance in the WCA's bank account only went up by about 50,000. And so that's, again, as things have started to stabilize and level off. Kind of want to circle back to my main point at the beginning. That stabilization, that increase in dues that we've seen coming in, all of that has allowed us to be very intentional as we continue with the software contractors building out the website and all of that, make decisions about dues to invest in making those national championships able to run better by giving them waivers on dues, things like that. So that's overall kind of the story of the WCA's finances in 2024. The rest of the financial report, if you read down, and again, is written in kind of a more accountantese language that is very, very important and very, very useful, but kind of goes over a lot of this stuff just in more detail, and you're welcome to read through that on your own time. So I did see one question pop up in the chat as I was speaking, and it looks like it was already answered in the chat as well, but I will, just for everyone viewing, repeat all of that. There's the question about the WCA's assets. Does this not mean financial investment assets? And it's all broken out in the balance sheet exactly where things are invested in terms of whether it's cash, whether it's software and trademarks and things like that. So with all that said, I know that's a lot of information and went through it kind of quickly. If anyone has any other quick questions that's in the meeting, I can take that. Otherwise, we will move on, I suppose, to the vote.
Thank you, Raymond. Yes, we will. So yes, really quickly, if there are any other questions, please put them in the chat. But I think we'll move straight to the vote. So Blake, if you can please post up the next vote to approve the financial report for the WCA for the 2024 fiscal year. A reminder, if anybody has any troubles voting in that, please paste in the chat. But it looks like we are good. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. And just give us a minute, and Blake, I'll let you do your magic. And when you've got a result, please let us know. Okay, we're good. Thank you, everybody. So there was 182 supporting votes, 0 no votes, and 1 abstain. That vote has passed, and the financial report for the 2024 fiscal year has been approved. Thank you, everybody. I'll move on to the next agenda item. And the next agenda item is member removal. Again, in your information pack, there is a document that explains the purpose behind this. I'll quickly read that out. Currently, all individuals with the WCA ID are considered individual non-voting members of the WCA. As a result, this mechanism has very little practical purposes under the current bylaws and has never been used to remove an individual non-voting member's membership. Regional organisations, however, are not individuals, and terminating their membership requires a full member vote as stipulated in Bylaw 2.9. There is no other mechanism by which to remove a regional organisation. Removing a regional organisation is desirable when the RO stops fulfilling its obligations under the RO membership or otherwise engages in disreputable conduct. However, conducting a full member vote is a challenging task. As we can see, we're a very large organisation now, in large part because of the specific RO membership does not impact most individual voting members. It was intended for the WCA Board of Directors to have the ability to remove regional organisations, as you can see in section 11 of the suspension and other sanctions motion, and that was approved by a member vote. I'm not going to read all of that for you now. So because the current bylaws are higher in the document hierarchy than the motions, it's not possible for the WCA board to remove a regional organisation. So in large part, this is a conflict in our governance documents that we would like to clarify and correct, and hence the proposal to add the additional line to the bylaws. So with that, I will move to the vote. Blake, if you can kick off the next vote, please. So this amendment is proposed to the bylaws, the changes. As you will see in your documents, any member may resign by filing a written resignation with the Secretary. Resignations shall not relieve a member of unpaid dues or other charges previously accrued. A member can have their membership terminated by a majority vote of the membership or by a supermajority 2/3 vote of the board. So that is what you are voting on today, to add that line. And if there are non-voting members that have been included, please do not vote in the poll.
And for clarity, if they did vote previously, we are ultimately filtering out those votes. So the results you see within Zoom are not the ultimate ones.
Yeah, it just makes it easier on our record keeping. Okay. Is everybody who wishes to vote voted? I will end the poll. Thank you. Thank you. Now we will just, so in the background for everybody's understanding, we download the results of the poll and put that into our spreadsheet where we have the record of all the voting members and the proxy votes. So it is a little bit quicker than the hand raise, but there is still a manual element to it. So thank you everybody for your patience on this. Okay, thank you, everybody. So with that, we had 161 yes votes, 12 no votes, 5 abstains. So the vote passes. Thank you, everybody. So the next agenda item is the WCA Strategic Plan 2025 to 2028. Again, this should be in your information pack. The link to the folder was in the chat originally. If you scroll to the top. Nick did talk a little bit about this in his executive director report. This is a very exciting project that the board has been working on for quite a long time now. And it is more than just an update this time. It is quite a transformative plan that addresses the explosive growth and dynamic environment that we are living in, particularly in this point in speed cubing's history. The process has been longer than we would have liked, but the board is very proud of the outcome. I just want to point out that this is a board-led initiative to update the strategy, but it's not one that we have taken in isolation. We did do a lot of consultation in crafting this strategy, and now it becomes a strategy for the entire organisation. And we look forward to partnering with all of our members to build a better future for the WCA. So as Nick talked about, we have a new purpose statement, which is empower the global speed cubing community and uphold a fair and fun competitive environment for all. In revamping the strategy, it became clear early on that we really needed to better define what was important for us. And after much debate, we settled on 5 values. These values define what is important to us as an organisation and keep us focused. So those 5 values are community, fairness, fun, excellence, and volunteerism. And in the strategic document, there is a little bit more explanation around each value. And on a more practical level, we defined 5 key results areas that our strategic priorities fall into. So that's growth, systems, partnerships, championships and events, and volunteers. So these key result areas represent the high priority outcomes that we will focus on for the next 3 years to enable sustainable growth. The board believes that there is immense benefit in capturing our organisation's purpose and values in our bylaws, something that hasn't been done in the past. So including the purpose and values ensures that these are our non-negotiable guiding principles, placing them above all other governance documents, motions, regulations, etc. We believe that the bylaws should define what the WCA is and why it exists, and they embed the WCA's reason for being at the constitutional level. So with that, I'll move on to the adoption of the values and purpose statement into the bylaws, and you will see that there is a addition into the right at the top of the bylaws in the names clause, and we are adding those 2 elements there. So with that, Blake, if you can kick off. I don't actually, if there is any questions, thank you, Nick, for posting that. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those, but Blake, I think we're good to kick off the vote. If everybody has voted. Okay, I think we will close off the vote. Thank you. And Blake, if you can confirm if Patrick Cleveland's vote was received.
We'll check on that.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We are good. So we have 174 yes votes, 3 no votes, 2 abstains. The vote passes. Thank you, everybody. Okay, with that, that is the last vote. And the only remaining thing is to talk about the next meeting. It will be online next year. The date to be advised. We will try and make it a bit earlier in the year next year, but there are always some other things, such as the finalising the financial report is an important component of that. So we will let you know in time, but it will be at the latest October next year. So with that, thank you, everybody. Carter, you can cut off the stream. Thank you for joining in if you've been listening along. And